They were absolutely fantastic, weren't they? Hello, gatekeepers. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome back to the 1990s, where we will tonight. I'd like to say we're finishing, but I found a couple of stories in the 90s I really wanted to dig into, and they really deserve a fair amount of research and a fair amount of time spent on episodes. So they will be coming up in the future. But tonight I kind of wanted to tie up loose ends and sit and talk to you guys about our memories of some of these movies and again some of these wonderful paranormal TV shows that are out there. I have kind of a little sampling of each, and I can't think of anybody I'd rather do this with than you guys and this wonderful guy that's waiting in the green room. I hope you got the bowl of M&Ms that was waiting on you in there. You being well taken care of in the green room there, Steve? Thumbs up. He's ready to come in here. So let's just beat the grass and get this old rattlesnake up in here. I love you and welcome in.
Hey, everybody.
Hi,
What's
sweetie.
going on?
You get prettier and prettier every week.
Were nice back there. And as it says in my writer, all the brown ones have been removed.
All the brown ones?
Yeah.
Do they have brown? Are they
had
brown
that in
anymore?
their tour rider. And they asked David Lee Roth one time why the brown ones had to be taken out. He said, because you couldn't tell who had been sitting on them.
He's such an idiot. He drank way too much bong water.
In there just to see if the venue or the promoter, whoever was paying attention to
would do it. There was a couple that actually did have certain colors, but again, just to throw some power. Isn't that awful? That power thing that with power corrupts absolute, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely. There you go.
There we go. Abraham Lincoln, right?
I think so.
I'm gonna start there.
Somebody.
I'm gonna work my way around to Ben Franklin and throw a Churchill or two in there. You never know. Sometimes I remember going round and round. I know it's way off base, but hey, what's to stop us now after all these years? But I remember going around. It was when I was homeschooling, and we were trying to find the original quote on who said, if you, it's hard to get it exactly right because it's been so bastardized over the years. Basically the one that says, if you do not learn from history, you're destined to repeat it. Right. And I always thought I was aiming for Churchill. I don't know why. Somebody said, I might have read it somewhere or, and they said it was, and I remembered something about his parrot, or didn't his parrot have a foul mouth? Churchill, was it Churchill's parrot?
Andrew Jackson's parrot.
And his too?
Yeah.
Was somebody up closer as well?
Maybe somebody else, but yeah, Andrew Jackson's, it was at his funeral, and the parrot was cousin of Blue Streak. They couldn't get it to quiet down, but apparently it learned from old Hickory.
Was he in the parlor? He was probably in the parlor. Probably wasn't.
I don't know.
Because didn't they always have the coffins in the front room right there by the big picture window?
Misquoted to Irish statesman Edmund Burke.
It's not. It's George Santayana.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here.
And I know because I had to go through 4 angry librarians in sweaters on their. 2 of them had sweaters on their shoulders. They weren't playing.
Did they have the glasses on the little chain? You
Absolutely.
Better watch out for those.
At least 2 out of the 4. At least 2 out of the 4. And the other one just looked scared. I had to go in the reference room behind the glass to look that up.
Isn't that what's carved on the front of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, to the Holocaust Museum or whatever it is?
I don't have the answer to that. Does anybody in the chat have the answer to that? I can tell you what's who's buried.
I got baby brain. Who's buried in Grant's tomb?
Really? Who's buried?
Yeah, it's baby. It's exactly 12 weeks today. This is the first day
baby on
of
board.
The 3rd trimester.
Maybe I can find that. Desi Arnaz singing to Lucille Ball. We're having a baby. Have you watched that episode? Have you all watched that episode?
Yep.
Together?
And then over on First Floor Audio with Lee G, he's been singing to us songs and taking Lady and replacing it with Baby. Like once, twice, three times a baby. And then Tom Jones, he's a baby. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He's a
She's
baby.
who did She's Having My Baby. That was Paul
Uh,
Anka?
yeah,
No.
Paul Anka. He got
Was
in
it?
trouble for that. Yeah.
Did he really? Did he
So
really?
it was
Didn't he? Wasn't he the Kodak
she's
man?
having my baby or something like that, and they
Having
made him
my
change the
baby.
lyrics to
What a lovely way
I
of
don't know. It was
saying how much you love me. Yeah, that's him.
anyway.
Or
She's
Peter
having my baby.
Lemongello.
She's having
Peter
my baby,
Lemongello.
and then they changed that to she's having our baby or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hey, Carrie, how you
I've got
doing?
all these songs coming at me now, and a
Hey,
lot of guys with a lot of sideburns and polyester bell
Kenny
bottoms and
Rogers had
platform
one,
shoes.
lady.
That's Lady. That
See,
song
anything
got
with
me in
lady,
a car accident. Don't sing
anything
that.
with
That's a
lady,
bad
you can
song.
change to baby and it works. Jimi Hendrix, Foxy Baby.
A funny story there. Do you remember what was the name of the group that Kenny Rogers was in?
The first edition.
Thank you. I had the biggest crush. I was a little girl, but I had the biggest crush on him. Him and Tom Jones before that, but I left Tom Jones for Kenny Rogers. You should have seen him back then when he was in that group. And then all of a sudden they disappeared, and he came back around. He was a country singer. But
Yeah, I think he killed him.
okay. Yeah. So I'm, again, I found rock and roll. It didn't matter anymore. So I had an old car, first car I ever bought, had no radio. I got a transistor on the seat. I'd take a left turn, right? And the thing off the seat. And that daggum song came on, and I said I couldn't stand it. And I reached down to get it. When I looked up, I was going the wrong way. This when I was really, really young. Man, I turned it. I hit a wet pile of leaves through a puddle, went across 2 lanes of traffic and hit a whole grove of trees, and wound up in the backyard of a guy who had a crush on me in high school, who was now a cop. And he was the first person I saw, and I was in his yard, and those were his trees. True story. That's why I don't like that song. We all have something. Right? Check the what?
Yeah.
Well, if Cisco checks her Facebook messages, what happened? I'll check it here in a minute, Kat. Is it an emergency? Is there an alert of some sort?
Probably.
Is there a herd of angry clowns or monkeys with sharp bananas headed this way?
Go in.
Look at all these lovely people in here tonight, Steve.
Go in, take
Yeah,
one
that
last
song's
look
bad
at your
luck,
family,
Steve.
and then run out the door. Something's happening.
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. So I don't know. What were your where were you in the 90s too? That whole decade there, Steve.
I was asleep. I think.
Primarily, I was all over the place, man.
I like the 90s, but I much prefer the 80s. 90s were okay. They're better than the 2000s and certainly
love the
better
70s. The 80s was kind of a blur. It was all military.
Yeah. But the 70s weren't bad. 80s were excellent. And 90s kind of.
The 80s for me were more military and a lot of booze because military. So I think the first weekend they let you go, Steve, everybody just the cream rises to the top and the lightweights hit the ground. I'm telling you, the bodies hit the floor. Anybody's ever been in knows this. The first leave you ever get, they say, don't drink. Don't go here. Don't go off base. Don't do that. But there's always a place on base where somebody could sneak in to drink. Ours at Fort Dix was a bowling alley. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people didn't make it back from the first 2-day pass. I mean, I hate to laugh, but it's so true. It's amazing how fast people just get weeded out. Just there goes another big chunk. There goes another big chunk. Whoop, that did it. That 30-mile march sure took a chunk out of the platoon. I mean, it happens. A lot of people go into sick call and they just don't come back. What happened to such and such? Well, they got restarted. When you're in training like that, you get behind, you have to start with the next. You know what I mean? So you never see people again. It's a big turnover, Steve. I imagine now it's even worse. You know what I mean? So, but where were you? Basically, you were here in the States, right?
Yeah, I was in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
For the pretty much that whole decade. So all your memories, the reason I'm asking is because all your memories are primarily going to, of course, become in the 90s, still very cultural, where you're living, what billboards, what your local TV stations are playing, what your local radio stations are playing, what's playing at the local theater, during the 90s. And also, like I was trying to think last night, it's also your dynamic, your social dynamic. So like if you are you like I was a mom of two young boys, so I was all Micro Machines, GI Joes, and pogs and skateboarding and that kind of stuff, and any movie that had anything to do with that, so Aladdin, because they were young. Yep, there you go.
Pogs, that's Nicole Slammer.
There you
Now,
go.
she's a little bit younger than I am. She would have been 5 in 1990, but it was a good decade.
Wow.
For like the 90s.
How cool is that? How cool is that? So I saw a lot of those. And what else was? We were talking last night. I know trading cards have always been big, going way back to when they first started putting a card in a bubble gum. And I think the first thing, if I'm not mistaken, was baseball.
It was in tobacco.
The cards were in tobacco?
Baseball cards were in tobacco. Yeah, those really, really
so
rare.
They were obviously the first cards, first trading cards.
Wagner, that's the rarest of them all. And he was like a devout whatever he was, and was opposed to tobacco. So they had to take his cards out. And there's only a few of those known to exist.
I had no idea. No idea. So then it's probably safe to say that the baseball card was probably the first trading card, not playing card, because we know that goes, back to, they didn't even have numbers on the cards back in the day. The old Cowboys playing it around the fire,
Yourself.
Yeah. So, the cards, I know every decade kind of had its allure in the culture of the trading cards and things like that. So if you figure the 40s, when did they start coming out, Steve? You said the first were in tobacco. What about
that was
what
like
year?
I think in the 20s or something like that, a long time ago. And then I don't know when they started putting them in with bubble gum, and that was some of the worst bubble gum ever.
Nobody
bought trading cards for the bubble gum, let me tell you.
Flat thing with that white powder on it.
Bubblegum flavor.
You'd cut your lip trying to chew that stuff. And then once you got it going, you got about 3 or 4 good chews out of it.
Yeah,
and then it was just flavor's gone, everything else. But
you get the cards, throw the bubblegum away, give it to your little cousin or something. Here's some bubblegum.
Yeah.
But I still remember in the 90s, is that now that I may be misremembering. Is that when they had the Garbage Pail Kids cards? Those were.
I think they started a little earlier. Chat, let us know, Garbage Pail Kids, because they were talking about it in here last night. How much that card
packages, going for. But I think that was in the 70s.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember all the.
Then they had monster cards,
the gross stuff,
back in the 60s and the 70s. Yeah, like the Rat Fink trading cards,
and there was a scratch and sniff or something. I can't remember, but the grosser the better. And I had boys, so they were in my house. So we had that. We had, they started collecting the Pokemon, of course. That was huge, absolutely huge. And also the cards like, the comic cards and everything else, because we went through a whole long time of collecting. We went from Matchbox cards to trading cards to, of course, the Pogs, and a lot of these things interweaved. The Beanie Babies, they were there. Beanie Baby auctions. Believe it or not, more adults than kids.
Women that would knife you over a Beanie Baby.
Yeah. These things were going crazy. I'm telling you, I saw this. It's like that song. I looked at clouds from both sides. Now I saw it from all kind of vantage points, because I was working in a florist that happened to get them. They started, I think, in Chicago, or I can't remember how it all started. Ty, unsolicited salutation from
Dunkin' Donuts with me here tonight. I had Starbucks earlier. I'm a switch hitter.
Loyal to none. So, well, except Nick, of course. I mean, coffee. So that whole collection thing, I had a vantage point, and that's why I was asking you where you were during that decade, because your vantage point of the 90s is going to be completely different, tailored to your experience, your journey, right? So you were pulled in through the social stuff. You knew the movies and the books and the stuff, through your work and everything. You were probably on the floor in the living room playing Micro Machines and putting stuff, building the turtle sewer thing out of Legos, you know what I'm saying? Or were you?
Big Ninja Turtles fan. I liked the Micro Machines, even though I was an adult there, because I had the Matchbox and the Hot Wheels and Johnny Lightning.
Oh God, yeah.
Kid. But the micro machines, they were little itty bitty. I had a
Tiny.
whole box full of them.
So well built, so detailed, amazing. They had a couple of sets of those, and that was really cool. But the cards were really big because they came out with the hologram stuff, the prism cards, and they were worth extra. So everybody seemed, like my kids, including me, collected different cards because that was a thing to do in the family. Get in a car, go out to a different place, and see if you get a couple packs, come home, put them in order in the books, talk about it. And that's pretty much it. A lot of money, but it's something to do as a family.
And I remember some kind of sports cards, football cards or something that had
oh
those.
gosh,
They
yeah,
had
it was every kind.
signed cards, and I don't remember what brand it was, but it was some new big thing, and people are like stealing them, from places.
Jeez, man.
They had to lock them up like at Walmart. Same with Pokemon cards and
Yep.
Magic the Gathering, and some of those they had to keep
those. They had all of the.
So
I remember Wolverine when my son found a Wolverine hologram for whatever trading card set he was collecting, because he was doing that, Pokemon and something else. Everybody had their thing. Mine was Hildebrandt. I collect all that art. I love Hildebrandt, the brothers.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. I had the posters when I was in high school, so I started collecting their arts. They're amazing, and you would be surprised how many books they've illustrated and times that you've seen their art, going through the mall back in the day at the Spencer's with the black light posters and all those unicorn things and all the beautiful, ladies laying on unicorns and all that. That was all Hildebrandt. So anyway, I collected them and AC/DC cards. Angus. But that was my thing, and some kind of haunted ghost thingamajig I started, but and that lasted a little while, and then it was Matchbox cars. I was, standing in line to pay for a bunch of cars, and there was still people lining up everybody knew when the Hot Wheels were coming in, when they got the new shipment, when it was going on the shelves, all those things. When your kids are into something like that, whether it's Barbie or, whatever they're collecting. I think that's a big part of the culture too. And then the other thing is the movies. It's the movies, it's the music, it's the bands, it's, all that influencing. But it's interesting to look at the 90s because, again, we're just now coming into the inner tubes or just getting connected, to the interwebs, right? So that influence, that flux of culture and pop influence and influencers are starting to come into play, and alternative choices and groups, and kind of sectioning off into different interests and Reddits and Substacks, and of course very early, most of that's 2000s, but just coming into that, because look at all the shows, Steve. You got Unsolved Mysteries was using it. Call the number, turn in your neighbor, whatever. Have you seen this guy? You know what I mean? Right?
There was a lot of them that were caught that way too. One of the craziest ones I heard about, a couple, I don't remember what their crime was. They had committed the crime. They were watching the show. They saw themselves, and they thought that the actor portrayal was them. So they've got us. We didn't know they had cameras on us. So they went and turned themselves in.
Oh, pretty.
Because of the recreation. So,
yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to look at that from, that point of view, because if you're one of those people that, you can imagine a huge chunk of people back then who were just pushing through, but, kids not, married, not family or not, alone or not, really spent a lot of time going to Blockbusters. And what was the other one, Steve, that was big back then? Blockbuster, and what else? Can't remember. Blockbuster pretty much took it at the end. Thank you,
was the big one. RP Scaza mentioned the Desert Storm trading cards. I remember those.
Do you? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they might have had a Desert Shield too, but yeah,
I'm sure they did. They had everything, because Dungeons and Dragons was really getting to kick off. So there you go. Now you got your dice game, cards and dice games, and all that's kicking off. I don't remember when Big Bang Theory came out. Do you, Steve? That was more of a 2000s too, right?
No, I don't know. I never watched it.
We're just getting into all that. We got the beepers. We've got the video I just showed. You had the phones are still kind of big. I remember the beepers played in hard for a while. And then you had, of course, all the different games. And the games are starting to get, really kick off, because my kids was Sega.
Was it Hollywood Video?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that was one. That's another
Okay.
one. And then you had all your mom and pops too. We had one down the street for a short time there. I lived out really rural in Alabama. And I mean, well, it wasn't really rural. It was definitely off the beaten path though. And local, they had this one video store. Everybody had a video store, remember? Some of them
I
were,
worked at one in the 80s,
yeah,
Video Hut.
Video Hut.
Video
This
Hut.
was Ann's
Sound
video.
like something from The Simpsons, but
Ann had her own
I had
hut.
another one called Pop and Go. Pop and Go
That's a
Video.
great name. Pop and Go.
There's another one
That could
called
totally mean something different.
Pick a Flick. And if you looked at their sign the wrong way, it didn't look like it said Pick a
Didn't look
Flick.
good.
It looked like it said
That's
Pick a
funny.
something else. But
Man, it's funny.
there's a
And
lot
good
of
old Ann's video. I'll tell you what, for a hardworking mom of I know they were pretty little back then. You could go. I didn't even have a VCR player, so I didn't want to commit. I don't know why, but anyhow, you could go down there. You could rent it for $10. You could at Ann's video
weekend special.
$10, $10, 3 videos, Steve, 3 VCR tapes, and the machine to do it with, and go home and keep them for the whole weekend, 3 days. And she always gave you Monday, you're coming back through. On my way into work, I'd turn it back in and we'd do it again a couple weeks later. It was fun.
Be kind, rewind. Some places would charge you a 50-cent rewinding fee if you didn't. Because you get home, you can wait to watch that movie, you put it in, and it's the end of it, and then you have to sit there and
rewind that sucker. Man,
it took
I
forever.
can remember so many times. You guys did
I had
it too,
a separate rewinder, a high-speed rewinder that you could put the tape in and rewind it like 2 minutes or something.
Yep. And dial up. That's right. And the computer games were starting to come out, because I remember my son played the Titanic computer game. He played that Oklahoma something or other computer game, and you started getting into the early computer stuff. I can't remember.
What was the other? There's another one that I played, like Doom.
3 weeks.
Can't remember.
I don't.
Redneck
Sasha
Rampage.
Bell was in here. Hey, Sasha Bell. Hey, everybody. Sarah was getting on the bus. Welcome in. If you don't mind, please jump out real quick and hit that like for me. Oregon Trail. That was it. And I remember playing the Titanic one too. That was a cool game. See all
Timmy
the people
died of dysentery.
Oh man, who?
You broke an axle.
Do what? Oh, on the Oregon Trail. Oh, dysentery. Yeah. That's not funny. Dysentery is never funny, Mr. Stockton. Yeah, I assure you. It's funny how much dysentery gets brought up on this program, though. I find that very interesting, because somebody gave me a comment about that, because I said something about it's all fun and games till somebody gets dysentery, which is a true statement. That is a true statement. I think it was talking about the Civil War, but I don't know. So anyway, you want to take a look at some movies? Name some movies was there a movie in the 90s? Now, chat, think on this.
I'm gonna have to reach back here.
Go ahead. You're allowed to look. You're allowed to. It's Google free night. You can look if you want. Feel free. Or DuckDuckGo or Brave or any of the wonderful choices we have out there is free.
Yeah, I'm gonna
First
have to
Amendment
cheat and look.
Americans.
A lot of these I never saw anyway. That's saying the top movies of the 90s.
Man, so many good ones. I'm shocked at how good even the list that doesn't get promoted a lot, but you saw them. You might not have saw it in the theater. You might have went down to your local Hollywood Video or your Blockbuster and rented it for the weekend. But I mean, some of them were just fabulous. Like I remember one today is Bad Moon. Does anybody remember that? Bad Moon? And it had Michael Pere in it. And it had and he goes to visit his sister, and her sister has a young son. Of course, she's a widow or something, a widower, something like that. She's alone with the kid, and he moves into the back shed, which happens to be a wonderful little tiny house. And of course, he's a werewolf. Who'd have thunk it? And it's very well done. It's kind of got a Silver Bullet flavor. So if you like the movie Silver Bullet, with the kid with the fireworks and the drunk uncle, what's his name, with the wild man with the hair, Gary Busey, as the drunk uncle, which is like, if you're going to have a drunk uncle, you might as well go all the way and have him be like Gary Busey. But anyhow, it's a fabulous flick, and Blue Moon is too. And if you missed it, there's one to catch you from the 90s. I don't have any clips or anything on it because, man, I'll tell you, just digging out what I've already dug out, these little gifts of Furbies and Tickle Me Elmos, stuff like that. This thing, it takes hours and hours and hours, so I miss a lot, but I try to get a smattering, Would you like to say something, Mr. Steve?
No, I was just
What do you
listening
got?
to you.
Well, you were
Oh, I
going to
was
tell me
looking
your
here.
favorite
There's some
movie.
of these I still haven't seen, but there's some good ones in here too. Pulp Fiction, Dazed and Confused,
Right.
Jurassic
Oh,
Park,
I love that. Yep. And
Forrest
yep.
Gump,
Yep.
The Matrix.
Yeah. Boy, they
let's
sure
see
made
here.
us think, didn't they?
Toy Story, Goodfellas.
Yep. That one. Gosh, that's a great one.
Some of these
And
I've been
again,
skipping
I
over.
kind of put in
Seattle, Pretty
the
Woman.
Cliffs. Yeah. Oh gosh, that was good too. But the caliber of movies. Do you see what I mean?
Home Alone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The writing, the cinematography, what they were putting out, the style. There was no, you know, you know. And again, if they ever had a narrative or if they had something else, it was subtle. I mean, some stronger than others, but you could watch a Goodfellas and not, and again, that's got its own scare. That's got, because to me, that's true crime. That's, um, uh, how people can be horrific to each other. We're the worst monsters, right, Steve? We've said that 1,000 times. We're the absolute worst people, and the things we do to each other is just, you can't even put into words sometimes. And Goodfellas and movies like that. Which one? Say it again.
Apollo 13.
Oh gosh. And again, scary in a different way, because now you're doing space, you're doing kind of historical that kind of thing. Is like, gosh, this really happened, or it could happen, or that kind of thing. It scares you in a different way. It puts your adrenaline up, but in a whole different way than something jumping out from a closet. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a different ways that we get scared and intrigued, in the drama and the trauma, and get our heart rate up and edge of our seat kind of stuff, and I think they count as almost horrific in a way, Steve. Wouldn't you? I mean, things like American Psycho, that's a horror. It's a different kind of slasher.
Silence of the Lambs. Did I already say that one? That was tiny.
If that's not horrific, what is? You see where I'm coming from? And I don't know that would be in everybody's horror list. Hey, Mairead, how you doing, sweetheart? I don't know if that would be. And everybody else I didn't say hi to, I apologize. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We truly love that you're here. What I was looking at, over this past couple of weeks is, when you look at something like that, like Titanic, you wouldn't put that in a horror column, but it was definitely horrific. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, wasn't a comedy, that's for sure.
but it had funny parts.
It had some funny parts in it. It was
real
ensemble cast. It was based on a real event, and
I mean, if you can't wrap your heart around thinking that it's the most horrific thing you've ever seen and heartbreaking thing, as the band, which actually happened, played on the deck as the ship filled with water and people pushed and shoved for lifeboats. They knew they weren't going anywhere. They said, we might as well play music. And they played it. If you've ever heard anywhere else, other things, the thing that made them stop and pull it out, their instruments, and start to play, was, they said, to calm the people. To calm the people. It was what they could do to calm the people. And to me, that is it's hard. It's got its own.
Didn't they play hymns or something? There's a Harry Chapin song, dance band on the Titanic playing "Near My God to Thee."
Near My
the
God to
icebergs
Thee.
On the starboard side, darling, won't you dance with me?
And again, that's horrific in its own way. It's sweetly, it's covered in emotion, and and almost like a release, because it's that moment in every movie, in every that's like this, or life story, or even death story, that moment of just give up. This is going to be it. So just that release. You see it also. Now, this isn't a 90s movie. The Abyss. I mean, things like this, where people just let go. There was something recently here, and again, horrific. This is horrific. There was what do you call the wind turbines? I guess that's what you call them, right? The big awful things that they're putting all over the
Those
place,
things
right?
give me anxiety just looking at them.
Oh, just stop it. Just stop it. It's not going to work. Just stop it. Prove me wrong with science. So anyway, I mean, they're killing birds and everything else. And if this doesn't do it, so cheap on the parts, let's not get into the minutia of that. But anyway, the darn thing catches on fire. There's 8 guys up there. All but 2 got down. And I mean, the last 2 really had a hard time getting down because this thing burst into flames. And it's going, and it's too high up for the fire truck
You
cherry
get
picker
down,
to
that's
reach.
not the problem. It's getting down safely and in one piece.
Horrific. And there's a video of this.
Used to say, watch that first step. It's a doozy.
There's a video. It's again, horrific.
Can you imagine being
and they're
trapped
just
on
standing
something
there
like that?
and
There's nowhere to go.
They know they're going, and these 2 hardworking, still wearing their hard hat brothers that work together, just hugged each other, and as the flames engulfed them. And there's video. People took video of this. I mean, I can't believe. I don't understand the place where you just stop and go, it's inevitable. But that's the moment I'm talking about, where people just, it's inevitable, like on the Titanic, like the 2 that couple that just, they weren't leaving. They just laid down in bed and hugged each other. Again, horrific, sweetly horrific. But then you've got the bloody horrific, and then you've got the psychological, how could somebody be so evil, horrific, like your American Psycho, your, you name them, your Silence of the Lambs, your Hannibal Lecters, your that's deeply horrific. The control that man was trying to play the room like an instrument. He's sitting there and he's playing Clarice in her mind and talking about the lambs and all this, and you're wondering, how does he know this, and what, and then you also think, how far is that person willing to go and give up of themselves? They're being lured into like a spider in a web.
Yeah. And she knows she's being manipulated.
But she's paying a price. Yeah. She's
in order for her to get the information she wanted, she had to answer questions for. That was just a wonderful, wonderful movie.
Yeah. And
actually, the very first sort of Hannibal Lecter movie was called Red Dragon, but it was actually Manhunter by Michael Mann, the guy that did MTV videos and stuff. He made Manhunter, which is where you first learned about Hannibal Lecter. And they remade Red Dragon, but if you can find it, it's an 80s movie.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember when it came out.
Go watch
we rented it from the Blockbuster. Rented it from the I'm not joking, because we had one right down the street by the time the kids were getting into preteens and all this other stuff. Now we're talking about getting into the late 90s with my vantage point on the 90s, where I was bartending and floral designing and doing all kinds of stuff, probably serving somewhere back and forth. But and you jump around like that. It's like more money over here, and you have to move so you get something closer. And I mean, it's just one of those, you do what you got to do. Construction, I've put up fences, I've put in ground pools, I've driven a truck, I've done concrete, you name it, build decks, put up additions, make a mean margarita, and a mean floral arrangement too. I do say myself. Still can make the hell out of a corsage. I will say that out loud. We just had prom season, 4 or 5 different schools all going through this little shop, Steve. It's just, I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see people still doing the traditions. I love it.
It's been a dull roar for you since when? Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
Didn't stop.
People don't ever understand how, when I say, on this show, it's like 2 weeks, beginning to end, before, during, and after Valentine's Day. I'm all sitting here and you see my hands all taped up, my fingers all taped up. So you have no idea how many roses, how many dozens going. It's like one of those poor little, gosh, can you say Chinese people now, Steve, and not get kicked off the air? And they're packing those little packages and throwing them as fast as they can. I had somebody deliver something today. Freaked me out, guy. It's just this little car. I'm out there watering flowers, and this little, just regular car, little beigey kind of gray, something or other car. And guy gets out, and he's got the same jacket and colored jacket and hat as the car. So it's like, it almost looks uniform,
Yep.
or the dullest poor man I've ever seen in my life. It was just so, just this dull beigey gray. It was like, ugh, of all the colors. Anyway, and he's got a phone in his hand, and he's like taking pictures, he's putting something on it. He's like looking, and he's headed up my driveway, and I'm just standing there. And I'm watching him come at me with this back. And I'm just watching, waiting for him to notice I'm standing there. And then I'm also doing that mental thing about how where's the line? How close is this little sucker going to get before I go, hey, So anyway, he doesn't even notice me. He's doing this to take a picture of my house. And then I realized he's got a package in his hand, but it was like little, like if he filled it over an envelope, really small. I had a good idea what it was. So then I knew what he was doing, but I still gave him the line. And right when he got right next to me, where I was like, hey, just like that. And man, he jumped so high, and he looked at me, and then he looked at the package, and he just stuck it out, and I grabbed it. I said, thank you very much. Have a nice day. And he just toddled back off and got in this little beige car and left. But it was just so weird. It's like people are coming up to your house without anything marked. You know what I mean? If that was an UpSky or FedEx or Amazon or UPS, or you know what I mean? It's different. It's just really different. Now you've got all these grab and goes coming and going, and you've got all these, food for these people next door. What? We had gone from the Oregon Trail, like somebody said, pretty much going to hunting and gathering and your food and beating your laundry on a rock, to now you don't even leave the house it just keeps coming. It's just, I don't know what's next. Maybe we get not the Jeffersons. That was a totally different show. The Jetsons.
Yeah.
You remember, you go in, you push a button, and this like a dumb waiter would come down, and it would all be on the plate ready to go. And
Amazon is doing some deliveries by drone now. So
big old sandwich, BLTs, hot steaming baked potatoes and stuff, and that little robot that went around. Anybody remember that robot's name? I remember it was
Rosie the robot maid.
There you go, Rosie.
And George and Jane, who were the
She was like Hazel, though. I think, wasn't she made after Hazel?
Judy, their boy Elroy, and Astro the dog, and of course Rosie the robot maid. He worked at Spacely Sprockets. You can tell I watched a lot.
My gosh, Spacely Sprockets! I remember. Yes, my big thing was Gilligan's Island, Flintstones, Electric Company. I remember watching that as real young. And then there was like this, how they just rolled it. You watch what they put on. So whether it's a father's nose, Zoom.
Zoom, right? Zoom. ZWM, Box 350, Boston, Mass. 02134, WGBH.
I remember the damn zip code.
Up the road from me here.
Rosie the robot. Yep. Thank you there's my merch. And listen, if you go to look at the merch, you'll see the new T-shirts up there, the new hats. We got the dad hats, they call them. Which I like them because the material all the way around. They don't have that netting in the back with the foam. It's not like that. It's the material, like a heavy cottons or denim kind of thing. But you get whatever color you want. And I got the
like that
Sage Against the Machine. Yep, just like that. Yep.
And this one is a flat cap. Nicole got me this. It's a Boston Scally cap.
That's a good one. So it looks good on you. Looks good. I told you look prettier every week. Oh, did you really, Scott? Thank you. Love you. Thank you. And that's great. I love that you guys get something for, you know what I mean? For it, it's different than, it doesn't, I like the buttons too. A lot of people like to collect buttons if you're, whatever, you're working somewhere where you can express yourself. You can have buttons on your
those little
jacket.
1-inch pins.
That's what they are.
I had them all over a denim jacket, and then I had a leather motorcycle jacket that was covered in them too. That was the shit.
Put on hats, put them on your bags that you carry to the grocery store, express yourself, express the crispy. You can put Journey Through the Gate up there. You get, all kinds of stuff. So I like the pillows and stuff too. So let's take a look at some movies. Let's see if we can get knocked off of YouTube tonight, Steve. What do you think? It might happen. Movies that scared us, 1990s. Like I said, I kind of reached beyond the lines a little for the horror tonight. Usual Suspects, one of my absolute favorites. Verbal Hint. This is a fabulous movie. It's psychological. This is an exercise in discernment, I assure you.
All right, you all know the drill. When your number is called, step forward.
I love each and every one of them, except not so much Kevin Spacey. He's one of my favorites.
Hand me the keys, you fucking cocksucker.
I tried. Steven. Benicio del Toro. Gabriel Byrne. Look at him. He's black.
Benicio
Man of
del
Black.
Toro. That's Spanish for beans and toast.
I'll flip you. He's got this thing in here. I'll flip you. I'll tell you what, Kevin Spacey was tearing up in the 90s. He's tearing up in a different way now, though.
Believe me, I tried, but Keaton wouldn't have it. It was too far-fetched for him.
Look
Keaton was a
familiar?
grounded guy, an ex-cop. To a cop, the explanation is never that complicated. It's always simple. There's no mystery to the street, no arch criminal behind it all. If you got a dead body and you think his brother did it, you're gonna find out you're right.
Looks familiar. Chaz Palminteri. This man he has quite a big piece of my heart. I love me some Chaz Palminteri. Fell in love with him during the great movie Oscar. He's got a good podcast going right now, too. And a great Broadway play. Bronx Tale, of course, he wrote. Chaz Palminteri. Wow. Natural Born Killers, 1904. Woody Harrelson, Juliette Lewis. Oliver Stone directs. Another movie that should scare the living hell out of you, based on real characters, not so much the whole story, but their characters, because people lifted them up due to their fame.
Yep.
Woody Harrelson's an absolute nut job, and he's absolutely fabulous. But he's he's a and he was his daddy was a CIA.
The whole world's coming to an end now.
Yep. You make every day
The
feel like
angel,
kindergarten.
Mickey, they're coming down from heaven. I love that movie.
Here they come. Here they come. Scream, 1996. What a franchise this one was. Right? What's your favorite scary movie? Oh, Ghostface. You know, the first one, not bad. After that, the second, third, fourth, you know. But I love the concept. I love the whole thing with the reporters and, you know, her and David Arquette and, you know, that whole Nev Campbell. They did great. But, you know, Shotgun, come on. Short movie. But still, like the new monk, where you could get away if you could just, you know, but he trapped you. Yeah, Kevin Spacey in another one, playing this unnerving, psychotic, biblical serial killer with all of these 7 deadly sins, 7, gluttony, sloth, greed, you know, the whole thing. And it'll leave an imprint on you. What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? Horrific. I don't know what happened to Nev Campbell. He had that look. He sounded like Robert Stack, Steve. What's in the box? JFK, fabulous movie, Oliver Stone, based on Crossfire, written by none other than Jim Martin. Fabulous movie. Jim Garrison was an amazing patriot, really trying to push it. This was, you know, Barry and Clay Clark, not Clay Clark. Clay. Oh shoot, you know the story. Down in New Orleans, ties to Ruby and Oswald, and he's starting to uncover the secret. Horrific. This is horrific. That couldn't be done, and Garrison knew it. Horrific. Real horror. Very well done movie, I think.
Blair Witch. What was that one?
Blair Witch, man, boy, this was just like a flash in a pan, wasn't it? Heather Donahue, and it was just all low budget, kind of the early found footage.
Like $20,000, and it made like $500 million or something like that.
It kicked off, like 1,000 paranormal activities. Gave the ideas out, and this is pretty much all you got. And it looks like 1,000 YouTube channels. No offense to those YouTube channels, but just saying, how many have we watched? Some guy walk around the basement in another country yelling at a ghost in another language. I've done it.
Sometime when Cathita's live on camera over at Lee's, I've said she looks like found footage.
Does she look like found footage? Do you look like found footage, Cathita? That's funny.
She was having trouble with her webcam.
Yeah, the original Scream, really. Some of these, if you haven't seen them in a while, Usual Suspects, and I'll never watch 7 again just because it's just the imprint of the visuals. This is another one, Eyes Wide Shut. I could do a whole episode on this movie, all the things that happened during it, what they cut out, and everything else. But the short version is Devil Made Me Do It. You sort it out yourself. Based on a true story. That's a short version, Steve. That's the one that won't get me kicked off the interwebs tonight. Maybe. The night's young. Right?
Give it a minute.
This is one of my absolute favorites. I'm sorry. I won't apologize for it. I love every bit of it.
Good. I love the Coen brothers.
Fargo, Steve Buscemi, and the Wood Chipper. Love them all.
What I haven't heard you mentioned yet.
Funny little fellow.
With Michael Douglas.
Say it again. Falling Down. Yeah. That's a good one. Another horrific.
Just had enough.
She was fabulous. William H. Macy was wonderful. Again, scariest crap ever. He gets his wife kidnapped to get the money to swindle his father-in-law. Hires killers. Somebody winds up the wood chipper, maybe more than one person. I can't remember. And she's pregnant as the day is long. There's your theme there, Steve. And out there just doing it, getting her done. And she was fabulous. Yeah. It was amazing. She was great.
Horizon was 90s. Hey,
Which one?
How you doing, buddy? Coming in from Facebook.
Yep. Man. I have yet to see that one, Slow. Somebody else told me to watch that the other day. I think I'm going to probably have to watch it. Hey, Mike. Welcome in. How you doing, sweetheart? Good man there. Pulp Fiction, again, horrific, 4, little stories. And the whole thing, again, humans doing horrific things to each other. Say what again? Say what again?
Say what one more time?
Say one more time. Say it
English. Will you speak it?
Silence of the Lambs, here comes Jodie Foster as the FBI cadet Clarice. And Anthony Hopkins scares the living crap out of you. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Horrid. Horrible. Yeah. Again, different kind of horror. Cuts a little deeper.
That scene where she's at the storage locker and she's crawling around in that car.
Something else. Something else. Frighteners, one of the best underwatched shows ever. Frighteners. This was absolutely a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. I won't tell you the plot, but it has something to do with a serial killer, and he wants numbers, and he's obsessed with numbers even after death. And Mike here plays kind of like a ghost kind of theme. He pretends he can see ghosts, but he makes money at it, and he accidentally stumbles onto a real case, and it's a dead serial killer who's still killing, and this is one of his forms. Go see the movie. Love you, Mike. Hey, Davey, welcome in. See the movie. Oh, It's Frighteners.
Right.
Frighteners. It's absolutely fantastic. Funny. It keeps it real. You know, like all the laws of the paranormal and supernatural. You know, and it's an amazing. The entire cast. Here comes Event Horizon. Crew of the Lewis and Clark. Damn, that drummer's going off, ain't he? Holy shit. So, again, I haven't seen this one. I like Sam Neill. I'll give it a whirl. Yeah, score 13. Demon Knight. If you haven't seen this, this is Billy Zane at his absolute best. And I have to say it, you know, I loved her then, Jada Pinkett, before she was a Smith. And she does a great job in this. And this is a fabulous movie about a demon that comes to get a key and the people who try to fight him. And it's really well done. And it's a Tales from the Crypt. See, you remember the good old, the talking skeleton guy?
Yep.
Tales from the Crypt. Crypt Keeper, there you go. And It. Who can forget the original Pennywise here? Fantastic job. It'll make you afraid of sewers, I'll tell you that. Again, very just a psycho entity.
We all float down here.
Yep, we all float. Stir of Echoes. Kevin Bacon did a bang-up job in this. This is a good little ghost movie. It really is. It'll scare you. I mean, it's not a lot of, you know, it's really a horrific story. And if you haven't seen it, give it a watch because it's one of the best ghost movies out there, I think. Steve, have you seen it?
What is it?
Stir of Echoes. This is the ghost.
I was reading the chat over here.
This is the ghost. It's one of the. It's a Kevin Bacon, and he does a great job.
23. That's good. And she watched Event Horizon with Sam Neill. I think she meant the movie with Sam Neill.
Several times. Oh, have you?
She watched it with Sam Neill.
Yeah, and Billy Zane. I'll tell you what. This is before Titanic. He was having he had a pretty good decade in the 90s too. A Western or two. He plays a real good, slick, you know, kind of slimy bad guy, you know, and a little bit too absorbed. He's just that character. In this, it works well as a demon and just evil, you know, in the last one that came through, Tales from the Crypt one. So I didn't like Billy Zane a lot because of that character, but when I saw him in that, I was like, that's perfect for him. And then he came out in the Titanic, and he's basically just playing the same type of a part, really, but just as a rich, self-absorbed, powerful human. And you know, again, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between, you know, is that a human working all by themselves, or are they possessed by one of these demons? So there you go. It's like bookends for Billy Zane on that. So interesting. But Stir of Echoes, great movie. Kevin Bacon was great in it. It's a good, solid story, good, solid storyline as far as the paranormal, supernatural, and what we believe, you know, at this point, and what a ghost will go through to get their story told, and what their echoes, their death echo, is vibrating at, what's its world about. And Kevin Bacon goes under some kind of hypnosis. His sister is playing around, played by that wonderful character. I can't remember her name, but she was been on more of a comedian kind of role, you know, like on Saturday Night Lives and stuff like that. But she plays a great part in this. And she they're at a dinner party, whatever, hang out in the living room. She hypnotizes him, and he kind of gets a taste of the other side and had abilities anyway. And it kind of wakes something up. So now the ghost who's living in his house can communicate with him more. And that's the whole how it starts with Kevin Bacon. It's a wonderful movie. If you haven't seen it, Stir of Echoes, watch it, because he stirred up her death echoes, and now he can see her, and he's just coming into it. So if you're interested in that and coming into abilities and how somebody deals with something like that when all of a sudden everything is waking up, it's a good movie for that as well. There you go. Steve, anything on it? Have you seen it? You said no?
I haven't seen it. No.
There's another one for you. Yeah. It's got a horrific storyline, like I said, but it's not gory or blood,
Just
gory
remember
bloody.
from the 90s Pet Cemetery.
Oh yeah. Oh God,
That
such a
was-
great movie.
So
Such a
that's
great
the
movie.
Dollar Theater.
Yeah, it's such
They
a
still have
sad
those
story here.
Dollar Theater is like second run movies that have been out for a while. You could go. I think they went up to $3 even eventually back then. But you could go, and I'd smuggle in a bag of deli sandwiches or something and go watch a movie.
Go watch a movie.
Yeah.
The Faculty, great flick. I'll tell you what, it's got a great storyline. I was looking through it today. I didn't have time to put all the gifts up because it was getting up close time to the show, and I wanted to get this loaded and everything for you. So, The Faculty, basically the storyline again. I think aliens land on the football field. They don't really know it. They're kind of parasitical kind of aliens, kind of like body snatchers. Something along those lines. Think of the ones. What were the ones that jumped on your face? Was that Alien? They kind of jumped. It's the Thing as well, too, right?
Yeah.
That wonderful, the wonderful movie, The Thing. Man, that thing was great. I know that wasn't 90s. That probably was just on the beginning in the 90s, last half of the part of the 80s.
Remake with
Yeah.
Snake Plissken.
Yeah. Russell.
Another one. When you said The Faculty,
I almost
it
said Russell
reminded me of
Snowfers. I must be
The
hungry.
Firm with Tom Cruise. I'm not a big Tom Cruise
The
fan,
Firm.
but I like The Firm.
And that's scary too. Again, what power
it's
can
kinda
do.
like Law
people.
Firm and Stepford Wives put together, and
All that power, man. When you start mixing power and
best
evil
part, though, was
together and
watching him kick the
control and
shit out of
psychopaths,
Wilford
it's not pretty. It never turns out good. But The Faculty was really cool because again, aliens and they're parasitical. And I forget how they got into you or how they got, I don't know if they had to bite you or just land and get in your ear or something. I can't remember how they got in you, but once they did, that was it. And took over all the teachers and the kids are getting wise to it. So it's kind of a Breakfast Club gone wrong, kind of like detention, 2.0. But all of these kids wind up, they're all opposites and they all work together against this evil that is the Faculty. And they come up in chemistry with something that beats them. And I got to tell you the truth, the acting in it for the kids, the young, the students and the teachers was all really good. I don't have all the names of all the people that were in it, but they all did a great job. And it really is it's a little different. So it's new. It's not like playing off of something else and a fresh idea. And so if you haven't seen The Faculty, I highly recommend it. Anybody else out there see it? Pretty good. I love Snake Plissken too. Yeah, Escape from New York.
Henry
Getting a real
Nelson,
taste of that lately, aren't
Yeah.
we? Hey, Henry, getting a taste of that for reals. Yeah, escape. Get out the cities. Okay, here we go. Here it is, The Faculty. So it's each, like one's a drug dealer, one's a jock. Like I said, it's like Breakfast Club steroids. Now, From Dusk Till Dawn. This is Quentin Tarantino had a hell of a decade.
Yeah,
He had a hell of a decade. And this group kind of went from movie to movie together, from cinematographers to prop guys and everything else. And George Clooney was really, high on his time. He's coming out of Brother Where Art Thou and all that. This was fabulous. Fabulous flick. Everybody did a great job.
Two of America's most dangerous criminals.
Through this.
Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
One night is all that stands between them and freedom.
They wind up in a vampire outpost.
Their only chance is to fight back.
What I believe in my own two eyes, and what I saw is fucking vampires. Now, do we all agree that what we are dealing with is vampires?
Yes.
You too, preacher?
I don't believe in vampires, but I believe in what I saw.
Good for you. Heck of a movie. It's a wild ride. Yep. Parade loves it. Arachnophobia, one of my all-time favorites. Yep. Selma Hayek and that snake. She's a disco boy. She's fire walking. She really is. Did you? About 4 days ago, D-Rock. Parade loves it. Yeah, it's a great movie. This was how movies should be. This flick.
Hollywood Pictures and
How they
Amblin
used to
Entertainment
be.
present Jeff Daniels
Honey, we're in the living room. We need you to kill a spider.
and John Goodman
Dover McClintock, Infestation Management.
Because it's just a spot.
Would anybody object if I tore this floor out?
I would.
False alarm, then lead on. There's no spider here.
Every
John
so
Goodman
often,
was
in a little
cool,
town
man.
somewhere, there is a health
Harvey,
scare.
yes.
There's a rumor going around that some kind of spider might have killed Sam Metcalf.
When that happens, this town is dead.
Bless his heart, we just lost him, didn't we? That wasn't us, Dave.
Hollywood Pictures and Amblin Entertainment present
Absolutely. Me too. Candyman. So many. It. Scream. I think there was two.
Misery, Shawshank Redemption. There's this.
So, so good. So good. Shawshank. What a fine, fine movie. Like I said, Ring. I was kind of not out. Sixth Sense, very well done. So well done. M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah, what a flip on that, man. That was just fabulous. Liked it, way more than the others. Although the others grow on you.
Do you remember Flatliner? That one
Yes. Oh, Flatliner. I had that set up to do next, man, because wow, that's another horrific. You think about that, killing yourself just to see what's on the other side, and then to come back again. Just, geez.
Ed Wood. That was another one.
Yep. There's another good one.
World. My Cousin Vinny. The Craft. Oh, that's a good movie.
Oh, that was a good one. The Craft. So good. Yep.
Fried green
Go see The
tomato.
Frighteners. You got to see Frighteners. If you haven't seen it, let that be your first one. And Witches. The original Witches. That was so good. What scares you? What makes you scream? Did the 90s make you scream? I can remember, certain ones, like I said the other night, about being in the which ones I saw in the theater, who I saw it with. I mean, I think, things like that are such deep cut memories in our journey, in our life. They're like mile markers when movies come out or a song. Books are like that. Did you, were books a part of your summer? Did you go to the beach? Did you go to the park? Were you, do you read in the window box by the fireplace, and you mark time by the books you read? Because I can remember when I had Jonathan Livingston Seagull in my hands.
Yeah.
I didn't know why, but I can remember seeing it there at the beach. I probably threw it down and picked up a True Ghost Stories or Ripley's Believe It or Not or a war novel or something because, but now there's so many different things, Steve, and just like the playing cards and just like the internet, everything is sectioned off. People have so many choices. I was at a Barnes and Noble the other day, and you kind of look at that. Like I look at the internet, like Barnes and Noble. I know this sounds weird, but if you walk in the door and all of the stuff, when you first walk in the door is all these sale things. They're big items. They're usually tethered to the nearest holiday season or, like in this case, Father's Day was coming. So you got a lot of books on tools and cool cars and Harleys and this kind of stuff. You walk in the doors and the first thing is the narrative, whatever they're trying to push, whoever's behind it is pushing. That's right up front. And the people that paid the most to get you to see their stuff. That's in any store. The publisher to put out the most money to have their books, focused right there in the main drive, right? And then you look at it and it's all sections. It's all sectioned off. You got your kids section. And then, as they get older, you've got your teen section and all of these series and novels that have 24 books to them, like your Harry Potters and, whoever that owl is, it's living its mystery. And there's cats that live in her mystery. And then there's certain, sections of people that, characters that are, like your Little House on the Prairie kind of stuff. So each thing has got its own extension in each section. You have politics and history, and then you have your subcategories in history and your subcategories and your crafts and your this and your that and your high end. You want to go back in time with your leather journals, or do you want to go over here and build, the Millennium Falcon or something out of Legos? You got everything. That's like the internet. And before, when Steve and I were young, you were lucky if you got 3 channels. You saw the movie of the week. If it happened to be a movie that was in a theater 2.5, 3 years before that, depending on how popular the movie was. And that's just the way it worked. as far as, look, if we're still making money on it, we're not going to throw it up for free and cut it up. And you remember how they used to edit all of the movies that would come out, so you're getting the edited movie TV version.
Yeah,
What a pain in the ass.
This has been edited for television.
Yeah. And I can remember being at the Kmart literally with my mom and trying to push her to go home, because if we weren't there by the time that movie came on, and it was Planet of the Apes, and I can remember running in and flicking the TV on and trying to catch the channel when it was coming on, and trying to get the groceries put away so we could sit and enjoy that together. But I still remember doing it, and I was probably 9. But there was a lot of nights like that. And then again, you go to school the next day, that Monday, and whatever movie came out, that's what you were talking about.
Everybody was talking about.
That was it. So again, Steve and I will reach out and say, we didn't have a lot when we were, 60s, 70s, even 80s coming up into it. You saw what we had. We've showed them on the show, In Search Ofs, and TV specials and local TV news, specials and editorials and things like that. But in the 90s, as I've been digging, we had quite a few good shows, to reach out to. We were talking about them last night, and I was unaware, Steve. I don't know if you are. Let me get my notebook here. Wait. But Unsolved Mysteries, I had no idea. Now, not even counting the new revamps, because I believe there's been 2 revamps of Unsolved Mysteries other hosts have tried to do. But the long-running series with Robert Stack, it started in 1987. And it continued to 2010. Had a brief hiatus. Somebody else picked it up, revamped, tried it again. I think it was pretty well received, but it wasn't the original. So you had that already started in 87. And I didn't look up when America's Most Wanted started. But I know that it was in that genre. Now, that's incredible that Steve and I have talked about. That was more of a variety show that reached out to some of these kind of stories, like UFO, maybe a cryptid, but more. Yeah, Jan Jansen. They did tell that story. We saw that last night. I showed it last night because it came on.
Time I'd ever heard of that.
Yep. It came on Haunted Lives, I believe. And that was released in 97 or 95, possibly 95. So that's incredible. Came and went in the 80s. I thought maybe it hung over in the 90s. It didn't. But again, you're starting to see all that, where internet is really starting to make not just a dent in the programming and the shows offered and how people interacted with them. It was still well before the reality TV stuff started kicking in. Like, I don't know when Springer started, but that wasn't the first reality show. Believe me, I think the morning talk shows were. To tell you the truth, as soon as Phil Donahue pulled that on that mic wire and walked out into that audience, it was over. Now you had reality. You were talking to the masses now, and that, my friends, can be horrific. So it fits with our talk tonight. But again, I was surprised at all the different ones. So again, here's the other one. I talked about Creepy Canada. I looked into Creepy Canada. It was actually, again, in the 80s. So they were starting, again, to really kick off with this In Search Of kind of feel, where it's almost like a mini documentary, I would say, Steve. Instead of a long one like Chariots of the Gods, or the ones that Rod Serling and Leonard Nimoy started doing in the late 80s and mid 80s, when they started doing the movie length ones, coming out of Twilight Zone and everything. Then they started really kicking off when, like we've said many nights here, Sightings, because that went from 92. It's 92, 91 all the way to 98. But then I looked into our friends in Australia, right? And good old The Extraordinary with good old Warwick Moss, and that started 1992 to 1998, the same parallel with Sightings. So how odd is that? So I'm wondering how many other ones there were in other countries. I'm wondering if over in Asia they were kind of waking up to the paranormal supernatural. They're huge. Japan, Huge, 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 huge. So I can just imagine, when did that kick off? Because it did seem, when Steve and I looked into it, when the spiritual movement really started kicking off here after, I think it was the First World War, really to early 20s, 1890s, it had spurts and then really took off, the spiritualism movement globally, because you got people traveling, yada, yada, back and forth. But now you've got the internet, and the 90s is exploding.
Yeah.
So in honor of our friends in Australia, in the Extraordinary and Warwick Moss and all of them, I found a short. What I'm going to do is show you 3 really quick here to take us on out, because we've got just enough time. It's perfect. A little bit from each one that was also running at the same time as these other big shows that had almost 10 years, a whole decade of run. Because again, we've said on the last show, you had all kinds of things, faked or fact or faked, beyond belief, and all these other things. And there was another mystery show. Somebody mentioned it a couple weeks ago, that it was almost like a National Geographic kind of feel, Steve, that was almost like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, but it had a different flavor to it. And I can't remember what that was. And then there was the Jack Palance one, but I think that ran in the 80s. I think.
Yeah, and then Arthur C. Clarke had Mysterious World or something like that too.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, but we definitely had them. They were feeling out their oats. But again, I'll still lean on the fact that nobody did it like sightings in this and that decade, because of the way they grew with the internet and grew with the people and what the people were interested in, and more people calling in and giving their information in this Barnes and Noble type world of the internet. Everybody focused in on the subcategories of each, subject that they were looking into. And they had all these experts, and they weeded through them fast. They would pull out these great talents like Peter, James, and all the different scientists and parapsychologists and mediums and, psychic detectives and people that they reached out to. It really made a difference from beginning to end. If you watch the first episode and the last, and, not just the quality and the obvious change in tech and what was available, but it was the way they did it and the way they went after an answer and told a story. And I'll tell you what, The Extraordinary, I think they did just as good without having that internet hookup. They didn't bring in a whole lot of, callers and things like that and input, from the public. Although they would tell somebody's story who wrote in or something like that. So they did it still a little bit of the old way. So it's pretty interesting to look at. So for The Extraordinary, you ready, Steve? Does Mulder need to go out and
yeah, I may need to go return
roll
my
a cigarette
coffee to the earth, but I'll be right back.
Okay, sweetie. Oh, wait, did I do it right? I don't think I did that right. Hang on, let's try it again.
Hey, Kelly.
I'm pushing buttons. Hang on, folks. You might want to go ahead and put your tables up and
return your tray tables to their upright position.
And just, make sure you've located your vomit bag. I think we might be all right. They still have those, Steve. They still hand those out. I hadn't been on a plane in a long, long time.
The Extraordinary.
Are we 5-5? The Ghost of Kangaroo Island. We hadn't seen this one before. Isn't it great? Extraordinary.
Kangaroo Island is just off the South Australian coast.
Warwick Moss, everybody.
4,500 square kilometres of pristine beauty. A place steeped in history. This is the Southern Ocean. Down that way, the Antarctic. Over there, mainland Australia. It's rugged down here. A rocky island that at times is buffeted by ferocious seas and brutish winds. For sailors, Cape Willoughby has long been a welcome sight. It offered solace, confirmation of course, and safety. But for some, the lighthouse on those sharp cliffs is a dark and frightening place. Songwriter Clive Daniels and his wife Robin have experienced the tranquility, the solitude, and the mystery of Cape Willoughby and its lighthouse, the first one built in South Australia in 1852.
If I could put it into words, this place is a poet's dream. It's one of fascination and the unknown.
Back in April 1993, the Daniels, along with members of their family and friends, were here for a weekend reunion. They had the Cape to themselves. Even the ranger was away. And from the very start, there were ominous signs that this was to be no ordinary holiday. The first member of the party to sense something strange was Clive's sister, Shirley Buckley.
I put my things on the bed and I really felt uncomfortable. It was really, really very cold. And I thought, I don't like it. There was a bad atmosphere in there. I didn't like it at all.
The first night passed peacefully enough, and Clive Daniels was getting down to the serious business of songwriting. By the second night, he knew exactly where and when he'd find his inspiration. Up in the old lighthouse at midnight. It was a night just like this, cold, still, and crystal clear, that things started to change for Clive. What was to follow would almost literally scare he and his wife out of their wits. The lighthouse was deserted. Clive had the only key. All was silent, except for the waves crashing down below. The lamp above swept its arc across the lonely sea. As Clive gingerly made his way through the eerie labyrinth by torchlight, he was oblivious to the gloom around him. Already, words and music were floating through his mind.
Footsteps in the night, I hear calling. Footsteps in the night, in the door.
As he settled down at the very top of the lighthouse to compose, the atmosphere inside slowly began to change, slowly began to seem threatening.
I heard a creaking sound, and it was almost like a wooden door opening. Just a slow but a definite creak of wood. And that sort of baffled me a bit because there's no wooden door there. And then I heard footsteps coming down.
Naturally, he was nervous. But then, inexplicably, his torch died on him. A torch with a brand new battery. And all about him, inside the darkened lighthouse, Clive could feel a presence like nothing on earth.
It was just like an icy cold mist that was all around me. It almost touched me, but when I reached out, I could feel it. It was a dry, icy cold chill. And as you reached into it, you could feel, you knew that something was there, believe me. You knew that it was watching you, yet you couldn't see it.
Icy cold, so cold, Clive could feel the shivers down his spine, the shivers of fear.
I thought for the first time in my life, it's time to go. I knew whatever it was in there didn't want me in there. So I put my guitar in the case and I felt my way down the steps. At the same time, with my right hand, I was trying to find the key to the lighthouse so I could get out there and lock it up and just leave. I felt uncomfortable there.
Darkness, strange noises, icy pockets of air, and not a soul to be seen. Was it the mind playing tricks, or was it something else? Clive decided it was something else, something he couldn't explain. And as he locked up and left, the mystery of Cape Willoughby deepened. First, just as suddenly as it went out, his torch went on again. And then...
I looked back at the lighthouse and I could feel something was watching me almost from the top window. And you could almost feel as though there's someone up there. It was really strange, it's quite strange.
The eerie presence that Clive Daniels felt in the Cape Willoughby lighthouse chilled him. The appearance of a silhouette in the lighthouse window had unsettled him greatly. Was his mind playing tricks, or was this dark, brooding landscape home to a ghostly apparition? Perplexed and afraid, Clive returned to the room he was sharing with his wife, Robin. He decided not to disturb her, but it seems that icy, ghostly presence had other ideas.
Shortly after, must have been about half an hour after, my wife suddenly woke up and she sensed a presence in the room. And she said, "What's that?" And I could feel it too. It was almost that same sort of presence she had in the lighthouse. The sort of the eerie feeling that someone was watching, someone was there almost, you know. And I reached up into the air and just see if I could touch it. And it's strange. As soon as you lift your arm, it goes icy cold.
And I said, "Someone's in here," because it felt like someone was watching me, not like your little daughter coming in and saying, "Mum," you know, when you're asleep. It was like something bigger.
Just shortly after that, the shower started running, and my wife commented to me about the shower running. She says, "Who would be having a shower so early in the morning?" I looked at my watch and it was 2:30 in the morning.
For 15 minutes, the shower continued, and when it eventually stopped, Robin decided to investigate.
I couldn't believe it. There was no mist, there was no steam, the floor was completely dry. No one had, the towels were all neat, the bath mat was still hanging and it was dry. And I came back to my husband and I said, there was no one in the bathroom.
That morning, the party assembled early for breakfast, just after 5 o'clock, in fact.
When my husband came in, he was looking very white, very frightened, and a little bit confused.
And there were questions that had to be asked.
Hey, who's the keen one that got up at 2:30 in the morning and had a shower?
No one could answer that. Not one of them had been anywhere near the bathroom all night. Then, Clive's sister Shirley told him that during the night, she'd had the distinct impression that someone had entered her room.
The shape that I saw was a shape that was on the chair, and I thought, it looks for all the world like there's somebody sitting there, you know, and so I thought, oh, I'm not sure about this, and I waited for the light to flash around the room again to have another look, and sure enough, it was still there. And I thought, well, I don't know, it must be luggage or a backpack or something that was left on the chair from the night before, and I tried to convince myself of that fact.
But at dawn, when Shirley checked, the backpack was nowhere near the chair. Stranger still, there was a trail of sand across the room. It hadn't been there the night before, and none of the group had been to the beach. Finally, there was one more thing, the one that finally sent the family packing.
We were all sitting around at the table, and all of a sudden the newspaper that was on the seat next to my wife, the pages started to turn over on their own, and there was no window open, no door, and my wife jumped about, must have been about a foot in the air.
We had to move because they were slightly fearful of what could have happened, and they couldn't explain the unexplained.
Robin and Clive Daniels did try. They discovered that Cape Willoughby Lighthouse looms above a boiling gorge called the Devil's Kitchen. Since records were first kept back in 1847, more than 40 ships have been lost at sea off the coast here. In most cases, sailors lost their lives. And at least one lighthouse keeper died on duty. His name was John Tapley, and he was found dead in the lantern room at 6 a.m. on January the 23rd, 1869. The Daniels now wonder whether John Tapley's still around, or whether the presence at Cape Willoughby is the ghost of a sailor who perished out at sea. Whatever the answer, none will ever satisfy Shirley Buckley.
I wouldn't go and stay the night there again. No, no. The daytime I'd go to visit because it was a beautiful place and I loved it, but definitely not at night.
And as for Clive Daniels, he did get to write those songs. The lyrics, though, don't offer any explanation for the icy mist, the footsteps, the noises, or anything else that happened that April night at Cape Willoughby.
We're all very skeptical, but it's changed our perspective in life tremendously, to think that what you had beliefs in before and couldn't exist, it does exist. It's out there, believe me.
Good stuff.
Far out. Well, see, there you go. Whoa, wait a minute. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Cisco's pushing buttons.
I can still hear stuff. Where's it coming from? Not there. Hold on a second, guys. This is wild. I'll find it. There she is. Okay. There we go. Told you wear your seatbelts, folks. Okay.
It'll be a bumpy ride.
I mean, it's just me over here. Well, that you can see anyway. So there you go. Kangaroo Island. See? The Extraordinary. Ran parallel during the 90s. Pretty much best part of the decade. And hello, Travis. Welcome. I hope you're doing well, sweetie. I really do. Wish you love. All the energy in the world. Choo choo, check. Choo choo. All right. So that's the way the Extraordinary did shows. And again, just like the sightings, you know, of course, when they started to the end, there was definitely a difference when things got better and tech got better and, you know, cameras got better and cinematography and things like that. But they also handled it very well. They told the story. And I think that's, again, what we said last night about how people are reaching back and they want that. They want an escape. They want that nostalgia feel. They want to go back into history and into time, and they want to hear it and decide for themselves. Give me the facts. We don't need a lot of drama. Dramatization is fine. Reenactment is fine. But it's the overdoing it. It's the, you know, bringing up things and showing things have nothing to do. Like these things, I hate these shaky, jittery, glitchy things that come walking at you down a hallway and stuff like that. There's so much of that Blair Witch kind of felt that way. And I know movies kind of started to do that. The Ring was another, I think, that did that. I'm more of a Sixth Sense kind of person. You know, Frighteners I'm fine with, because
Sixth Sense is kind of a slow, steady climb, and then you get to that precipice.
Great way to put it.
Boom, yeah.
Great way to put it. And it was. And, you know, the others, I don't give it enough credit because it really was a great movie. But it was where I was in space and time when I first saw it. Her keys just made me nuts. It was like, I felt like Cujo. A bad case of rabies or something, because Nicole Kidman just kept running through this whole house, jittering these keys. And there was a lot of, you know, a lot of what they were showing you in these jump shots where that was that little girl that turned around wearing that confirmation gown, looked like a little bride. And she's, you know, dead one minute and, you know, alive the next, and these damn keys, and there's lots of fog, and it's bad weather, and people are coming and going, and you're really not sure what's going on. And it tried to be a psychological thriller, and I think they did that. But if they were trying to tell a ghost story, they really did that too, because they told a fabulous ghost story in that movie. Yet I think there was something about it that was kind of like trying to listen to jazz when you're irritated, and that jazz that just keeps jumping around, and you're just doing this. That's the way that movie made me feel. But
not the smooth jazz, but like the fusion.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Totally different.
It'll make you
Two
crazy.
totally different.
In the mood to listen.
Yeah, it's like Mexican jumping beans in your head, and you know, and you're just being hit with a cattle prod at the same time.
Yeah, I got put on hold somewhere the other day, and they had that some kind of bouncy, like a
Oh gosh, I'm irritated now.
flute and
Now-
bass. It was just like, oh my god! And I listened to that for a half hour. I was homicidal by the time I was off the phone.
I feel you. You should consider that when picking your hold music, folks. I mean,
Yeah.
there's one, I promise you, an insurance company that I've been with and then left and gone somewhere else and probably somewhere else again and then back again in my lifetime. So it's not
And
as
they
bad as
still
it
have the
sounds.
same old music.
Same old music. I'm telling you, they have not changed that stuff in at least 30 years. It's crazy. It sounds insane and impossible, but they must go back in and get it. It's this Night at the Orchestra, but it's just right on the edge of insanity, you know. And then by the time and every once in a while they'll pop in with a cute little slogan of some sort, you know. Did you know? Did you know that you're?
We appreciate your patience. You know, we're the next available agent will be with you.
These pandering little slogans, just trying to
We know your
stroke. It's
time
like,
is
I'm still
valuable.
here. I've got 20 minutes into this. I'm not letting go. And then the worst possible thing can happen in a situation like that. You get cut off.
Yeah.
You get cut off. The worst. I gotta say, cumulatively throughout my lifetime, I've had a lot of phone calls. I've had a lot of conversations on many different types of phones throughout my life. And I can tell you stories that have to do with your pay phones and just, interesting things. But I think the worst thing that's ever happened was when you're renewing your recently health insurance. You cannot get a hold of a person. You have to fill this stuff out online, and they give you a secret number. And there's one number all over your paperwork, all 16 pages of paperwork they sent you, and your date and your deadline date, and you better have it done by then or else, oh boy, right? So you're filling it out, you're online, and you put in the secret number. The secret number they give you has 10 digits. The secret number they want has 12. We started there.
I did that one time, and I called somebody and yelled at them, and they were just like, "Oh, we'll put zeros at the beginning or the end. That should work."
Yes.
You couldn't have told me that in the first place.
Secret. It's Victoria's secret. Her devil brother. This is his secret. Just put zeros. Try it at the beginning. Try it at the end. I did not know this. I didn't know you just willy-nilly go randomly add zeros to things and your secret number
secret
work.
number's in there somewhere. Put a zero at the
The
beginning.
only time I've
secret
ever
number
had
and a zero at the end, and there you go.
One is the loneliest number, but zero, usually that's what operator. Just give me a person.
Yeah,
Operator.
those that do the voice prompts. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you say? And you're screaming into the phone.
Can you pick
Live
one or
agent,
two? Nine.
Live agent.
Operator,
Just keep saying
operator.
that. Just keep saying operator. Just keep hitting
Victoria's
zero.
Secret. She's a hoe and she's got no boobs, and she's probably a guy.
Victor's Secret. There you go.
Victoria's Secret's darker than you think. Let's just leave it there. I don't, I'm telling you, honey, your world is not the world you think it is. Devil made me do it. How many of the theme? Now, I meant to look for Devil's Advocate. That had to be close to the 90s. That was man, boy, that one will get you. But Al Pacino's playing Satan, basically. And it was Keanu Reeves, wasn't it? As the unsuspecting, kind of like walks into this Stepford, eyes wide shut kind of firm. It's kind of like a combination between, the firm and
1997.
Devil's Advocate. That was a horror. That was like a real life horror. That one hit me like Prince of Darkness hit me, but that one was 70s. John Carpenter, Prince of Darkness. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It'll blow your mind.
Scary movie.
That one will stick to your ribs.
Another one he did called Ghosts of Mars was very disturbing too.
Now I'd never seen that one. I've heard of it. It's always been in on my back shelf.
That's 90s too.
Is that 90s as well? And that one, Event Horizon, I haven't seen that. That one with James Woods where he's a vampire killer, you got to see that if you hadn't seen it.
Ghost of Mars 2001, so it didn't make the 90s list. So.
When was the one? Oh, I got to know now. Oh, gosh. Paxton played a vampire. One of the best vampires you've ever seen. If you can't imagine, if you can't wrap your mind around that one, I'm telling you, it's a must see. I don't know what year it came out. It was Night Walkers, Night Stalkers, Night somebody something. Near Dark. Gosh, I was close.
That was in
Near
the
Dark.
80s, I think.
Was it? Let's see. Wait. Yep, 87. Ooh, gosh. Sorry, Bill. Just missed the 90s. Oh, such a good one. Such a good one. But I had to know because I thought about it the other day when I was saying to James.
Vampire book I've ever read that they never made into a movie, The Light at the End by Skip Inspector. That was just a thrill ride from start to finish.
Which one?
The Light at the End.
I had not heard of that one.
I don't know how they didn't make that into a movie.
Okay. Yeah, there's another one too. When did Night Flyer come out? Can you check, Steve, so I don't lose my screen here? Night Flyer, because if you haven't seen Night Flyer, again, I told this story last night. When Jose
1997.
Okay, perfect. So it's good for now. And how I miss putting that in there. But listen, like I said, the ones I grabbed took hours. So I'm definitely going to miss them. It's 10 years of movies. But if you haven't seen Night Flyer, watch it. It's one of the best renditions from book to movie, especially in the Stephen King genre, that I've ever seen. And Jose Ferrer does a great job. It's Jose Ferrer, right?
Let's look here.
Or the son of, which one is Jose and then
Julian
Junior?
Crystal, Michael H. Moss, Miguel Ferrer.
Miguel. Jose's his dad. Correct? Jose's his dad.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Great actor. He did great in not The Shining, the Stand. Oh, he did so good in The Stand. He played he went to the bad side. He went to Las Vegas.
Jose was his father. Jose was his dad.
Ferrer.
Rosemary Clooney was his mother.
Oh, for real? That I did not know. Learn to hear, folks, right here on Journey Through the Gate, right out of Steve Stockton's mouth. And Rosemary, did you say Rosemary Clooney?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. And Rosemary Clooney is, what's his face? Is we just watched him in Dusk Till Dawn. Total blank. I can see his face and I can't say his name. But that's his aunt.
George Clooney.
George Clooney. Thank you. Man, that one got stuck. All right, so let's take another look over here. I got another little whippet for you. And this one is from Haunted Lives. Now, if you remember Haunted Lives, now these are the documentaries. You can't really count them as television shows, but here's why I let it, I made sure I could stretch it, make it work. Because it was shown on television. They were basically more almost like a mini series. And that was something that was big. Came out of the 70s, lasted well into the 80s and 90s. And they were really something that would repeat probably maybe twice a year, depending on the genre. But these came out as independent shows that they stuck in there on a Friday or Saturday night. Right, Steve?
Yep.
And they were just fantastic, but they were, I don't know what that is. Oh gosh, here we go. All right. So, but independent of being a show that had, episodes such as Extraordinary, Creepy Canada, Sightings, and all of those, where you had like every Thursday night, for however until we get canceled. These guys would come out and just bebop. And that is in the format, a little bit more kind of a nod back to Rod Serling and what he and Leonard Nimoy and a couple other people were doing back in the 80s and late 70s. So, again, if the formula works, hey, how can we revamp it and bring it forth? Just like last night, Steve, we were talking about this show. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Ghost Watch. It came on in 1992. And you were in Tennessee, you said. I think you said.
Yep.
And in BBC it played, and it played on their documentary channel, you know, kind of like where you go like Travel Channel. They were starting to come out like that. You had your travel channels, you had your you know, different categories. It started splitting up like the Barnes and Noble, your subcategories, right? So people went to that documentary channel and saw this show on Halloween night 1992, and it had the same feel and the same result, really, like 1938's War of the Worlds, because people thought it was real. And to the point of, there are court cases, people were hurt, some even died from the outrage and the hysteria of it. And it was produced as a live show, very much Blair Witchy project kind of feel, because they lied about it and said, you know, this is live and this is the crew, and we're spending the night in the most haunted house, yada yada. It was corny, it was cheesy, it was, you know, just in no way
and
frightening.
It still to scare the pants off people. And
people still, every fail safe they set up, Steve, including the the switchboard, you call in the 800 number direct to one of our volunteer operators. Standing by, Steve. And they've got these cheeky MC who's making fun and all the puns and trying to be like, hey ho, you know, like a host at either a strip club or somewhere in LA. And he's just, and this family is supposed to be going through living hell, a mother and her two daughters. And this was the show. And it created such an outrage and everything else. I had never heard about this. We talked about it last night. And I gave everybody a free copy of it. It's in the archives. You can watch it for free. Look it up. Just put in archives.org, Ghost Watch 1992. Watch it if you dare. Oh, God, that's the craziest. Man, when you watch it, you just watch the whole time with your mouth hanging open, because you're reading the witness statements, you're looking at all the court cases, you're looking at the money payouts and the people that died, unfortunately. It's just insane. What's wrong with people? You know,
I myself that every day.
I'm like that owl on the book. I'm just, what's wrong with you? You know, at least every 5-10 minutes. All right. So what was that? What did I say I was going to show you? Haunted Lives. Okay, so Haunted Lives, wonderful show. This was one of those shows that had like a mini series, except Haunted Lives really did it to it, because during the decade of the 90s, it came in with separate shows. Each show would have 3 to 4 ghost stories, very well put together for their time. Deep research, well acted, not overdone, deep into history, just, you know, the genre we're kind of talking about, the Paranormal TV, which is, again, great, because you look now and we're hard pressed for that, right? So they really did it and put out 1, 2, 3, I think it was 3. 1991, they put out one of those shows that had 4 or 5, maybe 3 to 5 stories in it. And then they did it again in 92, another 3 to 5 shows. And then they did it again in 95, 3 to 5 shows. So these would all be shown as specials. And one of the stories that we're going to watch now, again, we can go out, walk around, get more water for your tea, go put some more ice in the whiskey, whatever you need to do, flip the cookies over, fold the laundry, whatever. This is a good story. And the reason I picked this one is from Haunted Lives, we've seen, if you remember, the school spirits where the guy got killed with the wall of bricks, and the ghost kids were singing and didn't want him to demolish the building. That really happened to that construction crew. So many others we've watched from this, and you'd recall Kate Morgan, where the guy she was actually related to had a bloodline relation, you know, kind of love line relation, because I think one of them was adopted and raised by a priest. Crazy story, but again, supposedly true. You met the lawyer that it happened to. That was a Haunted Lives story. So many good stories. This one tonight is one of my favorites. This is called Gettysburg Ghost, for obvious reasons. It's one of my favorites. But here's another reason it's a favorite of mine. This was a ghost experience that happened to 2 separate people in 2 separate places, 2 separate states, with the same interest in reenacting in the Civil War battles, and they were friends. But this happened to them separately, and I don't know of a simultaneously ghost haunting to two people. Have you ever heard of such a thing, Steve?
No, I don't think so. Not
So
off the
this
top
is
of my head. So
it's unique. It's unique. So let's give it a whirl and roll that footage. What do you think, Steve? Okay.
roll that beautiful bean footage.
Here we go. Let's see what I can do here. Do.
Reaching out from the world that lies beyond. They glide through the portals of our imagination. Yet some say they don't exist. They have been seen in the wink of an eye. They vanish.
Narrated by Stacy Keach, one of my favorites.
They are beyond life, beyond death, and to many, beyond belief. But now you will meet people who have seen them, walked with them, and even embraced them. Real people with real stories of real ghosts. There is often a vast difference between belief and actual experience. Students at
It's a pledge.
Okay, this one I messed up. This isn't the Gettysburg one, but that's okay.
Ignore
This
Mr.
is good.
Charm. He just learned to walk upright last week.
This is
Adam
students
Wagner.
in a frat
Need help with that stuff? Josh Pickering. No thanks. I can manage.
and an old
Hey,
frat
what was all that
brother
about?
is a ghost
Another
dad.
chapter in our
This is
illustrious
amazing.
history.
This is
Termites,
another
show
good
Mr.
one.
Pickering to the attic.
We'll let it roll.
The attic?
Good.
Yeah. Well, you don't think we want to contaminate our air with a pledge? Termite's your new big brother. He'll show you the ropes.
It's not so bad. You'll get my old box.
A very young Seth Green right there.
I know, right?
Look, I don't mean to be a wimp, but
How
do
about
girls always run out of here screaming?
Oh, she probably saw Duncan.
Duncan.
He's our resident ghost. I mean, I've never seen him, but
This actually
he's
happened.
supposed to look out for pledges.
Sorry about the buzzing. It's an old show, guys. Is he
Well, here you go.
83?
Welcome to
Wow.
the Rex. Good luck.
Loved him in North and South. I fell in love
Cool.
with Stacy Keach in North and South. And his
Hey,
brother
you're
married the stunning Jane Seymour.
I liked him in the
Michael.
Cheech and Chong movies.
I'm Josh. Now, ladies, the fun is about to begin. These are toothbrushes.
God, I'd be afraid
That
of going
is a
to
dirty kitchen, and you are pledged.
any kind of society,
Thought
frat
hazing
or
was
otherwise.
illegal. Not while I'm around. Go.
The damn hazing. How many people have died from the hazing? I think that's what happened to this ghost. I think that's what happened. I forget. It's been a while since I've seen this one. And that's something else. Ghosts starting to communicate on computers, Steve. The 90s. The 90s.
Yep.
Text messages. Wow.
Very funny, Lewis.
That's a horror in itself, having to take a shower in that house. Yeah, can you imagine? Oh, The Entity is so good. Read the book, saw the movie, and know a lot about the case, man. That was a good one. Freaky movie.
I know what I saw.
I've driven by that house in Culver City where the entity
Oh,
happened.
jeez.
I'm not doubting you.
Loved him as Mike Hammer.
It's just so
I didn't
bizarre.
come home.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that show, Scott. That was a great show.
Good movie. Oh gosh, a great,
I wanted
great
to show
show.
you this earlier.
Stacy Keach.
I thought
Mm-mm-mm.
Lewis did it.
North and South. I'm telling you, ladies, watch it. Civil War, men in uniform. My goodness.
Hi, welcome to Phi Delta Gamma.
Hasn't changed.
Remember when college used to
Oh, you
look
lived
like
here?
this?
GI Bill in 46.
You were a Phi?
Well, no, when I lived here, it was Theta.
On any given Sunday.
Josh Pickering.
Wally Marshall.
Would you like to take a look around?
Yeah. Thank you.
Down here is the least used room in the house, the library. Apparently, this used to be some sort of sacred room. There was no question as to what happened that afternoon. Wally Marshall saw something in that library. But what?
Nice going, boys. What'd you do to that old geezer? Short circuit his pacemaker?
Lewis, is there something we should know about the library?
Yeah, there is. You're both sleeping there tonight.
Having fun yet?
Oh, he's got to be here somewhere.
Do you think someday we'll look this dorky?
Someday?
Lewis must have crashed by now. I say we split.
Here we go. Here we go. They start doing that. It's like, okay, you want to communicate?
I know this guy.
Get it out.
He's the guy that had the heart attack. And look. Duncan Palmer.
I think there might be a story here, Steve.
Lasers on stun.
Hi, Captain.
Lasers on stun.
Definitely.
No joke, man. If only, right? Don't do this to me. I'm telling you right now, don't.
You should have seen the look on your faces.
No.
Sweet dreams, boys. Make sure they pay for that lamp.
I am not responsible.
Don't you see him?
I don't see anything. Do you?
Nah, man.
What's happening? So he's only showing himself to the one he wants to scare. Is that what I'm picking
Hey
up?
guys, we all know what happened to Lewis. When's he coming back?
That's right.
Whenever. He doesn't know.
This is always a
I
good
agree with
idea.
Mike that we need to get this thing resolved.
Head first.
I actually feel sorry for the guy. Wow. We don't want this to happen again. Let's do it. Join hands.
What could go wrong?
A lot of guys said this seance thing of Mike's was a lame idea. But Duncan was trying to tell us something.
I love the glass.
Duncan.
Though. This proves Steve and I are
You're
you
here.
make it out of anything. It's not the board.
We summon you.
I've used a beer can before.
We feel your pain.
Yep. Just by himself,
Speak
though.
to us.
Interesting technique. This is
Through
different.
us.
This is different.
Concentrate on the candles.
It's one guy. We'll take your word for it.
It's getting cold in here.
Somebody says I'll be right back. Goner. Remember in Star Trek, you knew who was going to get it by the color of shirt they wore. Every episode.
Yeah, so
Oh,
these
my
red
goodness.
Shirts.
So
You
he's
wish to
seeing
join
this?
the Brotherhood?
They're seeing this like a movie? Oh, he's seeing it.
I wish to join, Brother Wallace.
They're all seeing it. Like
And
the
you just walk the
elevator
gauntlet?
in the basement. They're projecting it. Oh my God, they killed him. Who would do this? To wear a pin and a letter? Is that what you get? Better job, a leg up. Why would you subject yourself? I mean, it happens all the time. Every fall, people are doing this. Drinking too much alcohol, wandered around in the marshes barefoot, with their hands
Some of us still don't
handcuffed in their
believe the
underwear.
spectacular events actually happened. But
Where's
it all
the
made
joy?
sense to me. Wally Marshall was responsible for Duncan's death, a hazing incident that was covered up.
See?
Duncan only wanted to belong, which is why he still hangs around the fraternity. For some reason, he latched on to me, which is why I've made this decision.
That's it.
My eyes are fried. Good night, man. You sure you won't reconsider? You're really gonna move out? Good night, Mike. Good night, Duncan.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hey, why don't they just keep it open and just say, hey, look, why don't you tell us what you want? Write it here. He's using the computer and stuff. Again, it's so agitating, aggravating, because they don't just come right out and say it. And maybe they don't even know. Who knows? Hard to say.
Hard to say. You took the words out of my mouth.
Right? Well, can you tell me, everybody at the Walmart on Saturday afternoon, what they're thinking? So basically, as a ghost hunter or a ghost investigator, you're walking right up into the invisible Walmart and talking to somebody, and all of a sudden you believe everything they say, and they're talking gibberish because they're in their own world. Who knows? It's so confusing.
Mike, come on, man, get up. There's a fire.
An individual.
Guys,
But I think in this case, he's actually helping them because there's a fire and he's getting them all up. And he does those kind of things too.
Mike told everyone I saved their lives. It was time to set the record straight. We're gathered together to honor a brother.
This ought to be good.
There's only one way we can thank you.
We took a vote. We want to make you one of us.
Oh, well, there you go.
Josh.
Little ceremony. Unfinished business, Steve. There it is.
You should have been given this a long time ago.
He earned it and paid
Wear it
for it
with
with his
pride.
life. Isn't that awful?
Duncan.
An unsolved murder, too?
Brothers.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't think the other guy, they didn't say anybody went to jail for that, did they? I got questions. I'm with Scott. I got questions too, Scott. I'm with you.
Nice work, man.
What could go wrong?
Welcome home.
Right. I don't understand why the ghost doesn't write it out on the laptop. All for a pin. I'm telling you what. Get paddled and, like I said, walking through the marshes barefoot in your boxer shorts and handcuffed with a bag over your head. People hitting you with rocks and stuff,
Just
making you
outside
drink
the
bad
campus of
whiskey.
Kansas State University in
For
Manhattan,
a pin.
Kansas, is the Pi Kappa Firehouse.
Here we are now in the room where Duncan was actually killed. As rumor has it, he was kneeling down over here on the floor during a paddling incident, and he accidentally looked up and got hit on the back of the head with a paddle. Well, after the blow to the head, the blood supposedly came over and hit this wall, and ever since then has been seeping through red. So we thought maybe wallpaper would cover it up. Well, after we wallpapered it, still didn't work. You could see blood outlines, and we actually saved some of that when we tore it down, and this is what we call our blood ball. This used to be a completely beige wallpaper.
Isn't that awful?
And now you can see how the red has come through.
What more do you need,
Larry
right?
Keller had a late-night encounter with Duncan.
They
One
should
night,
test it for
Sitting
DNA.
in here brushing my teeth with another guy in the house, getting ready for bed.
Coming
doing
up after the
normal
90s, maybe
chit-chat
they did.
Stuff, whatever guys do before they go to bed. We used to have a fan in this corner over here, and we had different lights that had outlets. And on the last outlet, the fan was hooked up, and we had it going, usually to air out the room. Well, in this particular instance, we're brushing our teeth, and the fan turns on by itself. Goes for about 15 seconds on high. Next thing you know, it shuts off. We come over to investigate, and the fan is in the off position the entire time. And about the same amount of time that it would take someone
to
walk from the fan over to the door, door slams.
That
That's my
happened to you,
closest
Steve.
encounter with Duncan.
Yep.
You've been there. You've been there.
The night of the fire is
You
still
can relate.
fresh in Joel Pickering's mind.
Knoxville, Tennessee.
When Duncan woke me up during the fire, I saw him walk by the bed.
Probably in the 90s.
So then I jumped up and looked down at the bed, which I could see smoke was just rolling up out of this. And to this day, I believe it was Duncan that saved our lives.
Sergio Lopez lived in the
That's a
house
nice
for
ghost.
3 years.
A fraternity brother of mine was sleeping in that bunk right there. when he heard the door open, he heard somebody walk up the steps, walk across the aisle, hearing the floor squeak. He swears he didn't see anybody. He believes it was Duncan. And to this day, my friend refuses to come up here.
Occasionally, the members of Pi Kappa Phi go in search of Duncan.
Here we go.
Find Ouija.
Look, they're all in on it now.
A couple of guys got up on the table and said Indian style and had the board between them and tried to call Duncan. Well, nothing was happening. We couldn't figure out why. And not till after that, we found out somebody had a Bible in the room. And as soon as he left, it started working. We said, what's your name? And he spelled out Duncan. And every time we would say his name and try and call him, the wind would start howling and our candles would start flickering. It was pretty rough there after we played Ouija. It really put in a lot of guys' minds that he is real and he is here in the house. And it really makes you wonder, you know, he could be sitting right here next to me and I wouldn't even know it.
At a reunion of the Phi Gamma Deltas who occupied the house in the 1970s and 80s, it was clear that Duncan had been haunting the house for years.
Wow.
Granted, it is an old
What
house.
more do you need?
But
That's
when
a
you
lot
get
of people.
doors closed that are supposed to be locked, coffee cups falling off the shelves. We don't have
It's like
an
Barney
explanation
Miller.
of what happened, but something happened.
To this
That's
day,
a great show, by the way,
Duncan
Barney Miller.
continues to haunt the frat
Very
house.
well written.
His spirit stuck somewhere between the living and the world
Why
of
can't they help
peaceful
him?
souls.
I have no idea what exactly his purpose is. As far as I know, he likes it here.
A grand tour of America's most haunted people, places, and things when Real Ghosts returns.
Well, how about that?
That was a good one.
Well, there you go. Just another well done, I think. Very well followed through. You know, they gave you as much information as they had up to the time. You know, I'd like to know what, that'd be interesting to look back and see what was going on now. Is he still there? Is Duncan still there? But that's a lot of witnesses.
Yep.
You know, I just don't get it, Steve. When people just, you know, gosh, I just don't believe, you know, in ghosts, that ghosts exist. I don't believe any of that bunk. You know, we still hear it to this day. You know, maybe if you hang around like at the Barnes and Noble I was talking about, and all you're doing is hanging around in your section and other people are hanging around there, they believe. But when you start going out into the other sections, go over to the hunting section, go over to like political science or something else, you know, and a lot of those people are going to, you know, I don't believe in that mess, you know, still to this day with all the evidence. And Steve and I say it all the time, you know, that no matter how far back we look, you know, we go all the way back. We've gone all the way back to the mid 1800s, haven't we, Steve? And you can go back further than that. And it's just witness after witness after story after story after, you know, right now we're kind of celebrating the programs and the media and the, you know, the things that we were watching. You know, gosh, if I delved into what we were reading then, you know, it'd be even more so that we were really coming into trying to understand this subcategories of all this paranormal, supernatural, and of course, metaphysical and stuff. And it's very interesting. And it's interesting to look at these TV shows and see what was going for the time, you know, what were people interested in, because certainly you can't take one of these, you know, I've showed you, I don't know, 5 or 6 different shows now that were available on television. If you took the ones that are available on television now and laid them next to each other, you'd be hard pressed to have them match. You'd have them so far out in different ways. You either have all history and no paranormal, you'd have, you know, paranormal with so many jump scares and really not so much evidence, and certainly not a story from beginning to end like we've been seeing here time after time in the 90s. And I think that's the big difference. It's because we were getting stories that had a past, a present, and a future, or at least up to the time information. And it's so interesting. And there's so many other things in the 90s, Steve, you know, that we didn't touch on that we might touch on in the future. But I don't know what you've got going on, and we're going to give you that when we're out of here. But we have some good guests coming up. We're going to be talking a little bit about Dogman. We're going to be talking about that with Elijah Henderson's coming on from Land Between the Lakes. and the Dogman and Bigfoot encounters there. There's some deep, dark stories that come out of those woods there on that border, paranormal border between the states there. And with Elijah is from the, see if I can get it right, Cryptid Research Institute or something similar to that. I hate to get it wrong. I apologize, Elijah, if I got it wrong. But you'll recognize him because he was in a show, one of these documentaries that are very well done by Seth Breedlove that Steve knows, and Steve's in one. But the very first American Werewolves, right? And Steve, you are in the second one.
Yeah, I've got a copy of it over here somewhere. It's buried under
very
all my
well
stuff.
done.
Yeah,
Talk about your
American
well done
Werewolves
documentaries.
2, Skinwalkers. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what
Had
we
a lot
need
of
more
fun
of.
doing it.
Oh, it's so well done. The first one, American Werewolves, is amazing, and Elijah is in that, and he is in there with the people that he knows and people that he's researched with, and yeah, I'm thrilled to have him, and I can't wait to hear his stories. He was also one of the people involved in bringing out the kind of the witness that came out of the shadows, and very interesting topic. I don't know what side or where, even where we're at with all that right now, but I'll tell you what, I heard the call. I have no reason to disbelieve it, and the energy that I was getting off of it, if I'm just going on that, I'd say there's a validity there. You know what I mean? So it's definitely worth listening to. And just like, Nuke's Top 5 says, it's up to you, but you have to see it, to make a decision on it. So we have him on, and it's great because somebody else, one of our next guests, was on the very same American Werewolves with Elijah, and that's Ron Murphy. He will be on, and we're talking about witches, and we've got some other people coming. But what do you got coming up there, Steve? I was just on your radio show. That was so much fun. We were talking about TV then too, weren't we? Or at least Paranormal TV.
Yeah, we talked 90s horror, I think.
Yeah.
Or 90s, no, Paranormal TV, classic Paranormal TV. Got more shows
Great
coming
combo.
up every week, Sunday night, 9 to 11 on everything out there on the Clyde Lewis Ground Zero Radio Network. Got videos coming up on both channels. And then I don't remember, last week, did I show you my Garrison Keillor book that he sent me?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Garrison Keillor, that blew my mind, man. I'm like, can you imagine? Listen, I know he got, his hand in somebody's apple pie there, but
look at that.
He was a wonderful storyteller, wonderful on the radio, had a wonderful, what was it, Woebegone Days? And
Lake Woebegone Days, yeah.
And the Prairie Home Companion.
Apparently he's a fan. He sent me a book and assigned to Steve Stockton for him to read in his distinctive narrative voice. Garrison Keillor. I mean,
isn't that wonderful?
Huge fan.
It just tickled me. It tickled me. It just blew my mind. I love it.
Invigorating, excellent for reading aloud to friends and associates of all ages and dispositions.
Garrison Keillor.
It's poetry.
If you want a good story, pull up some of his old stuff. I can remember listening to that, doing dishes, do wallpaper in the kitchen or something, and I got one of his cassettes on, he was just going, I had no idea who he was talking about or any of these people, but he makes you feel like you know them, in this town supposedly he lived in, and he paints this wonderful picture. He was just he was amazing. He was like if Norman Rockwell had a radio show.
Yeah, he's a storyteller.
Similar.
And
yes,
good,
Derek,
good
they
musical
can.
guests on there too.
They're all individual. But yes, they can. I've known ghosts to be around centuries, and longer than that, really, in response to intelligent questions. It's an amazing thing because you talk to people like Dan Baldwin and who lives out by the Superstition Mountains, and he's got EVPs that he had to go through I don't know how many universities and linguistics, all this different stuff, try to figure out who it was, and they found out it was a language that had been dead. He was going back to primal times. I mean, it was crazy. and they were not echoes from the past or stone tape theory or anything like that. They were answers to questions, but they had to decipher the language. It's an incredible story. He's got books. Dan Baldwin, Superstition Mountains. He does dowsing and rescue as well. But he's got a lot of proof in there on how long. And so does Rob Gutro. All his trips in the UK and stuff. Think about all those. So a lot of times people say after a while the energy dissipates, but I think that also means, in some cases I'm sure it could, but what kind of energy you're talking about, and what do you mean by dissipates? Does it go somewhere else? Because we know it can't be destroyed. So where'd it go? So there you go. Nothing but questions, Steve. I love you. My love to Nick and the babe and the babe. Yep. We're getting so close to the baby.
The third trimester started today.
Here we go. Gosh, summers. At least it's going to be mild summers where you are. You're not going to have to worry about it. You're not like Hawaii. Yeah.
It's going to be like 105 and 110, and
put her feet in ice water. Get your bin. Put your feet in ice water. You know what I mean? Get the cold towels. What you do is you get your bunch of cold washcloths. You wet them, and you wring them out, and you fold them up. And you put them in Ziploc bags. And you put them in the freezer. You take them out, you put them on the back of your neck and on your wrists. She'll breeze right through it. Trust an old broad. I survived for a reason.
It's going to be a short-lived.
That works for puppies too, by the way. But you dip if you got a puppy that wants to chew,
I've seen those temps when I lived in Las Vegas in the Mojave, and when I lived in the high desert of New Mexico. I didn't think I'd see triple digits here in New England, but
there you go. Well, may it not last long, and may. Long may she wave. You know what I'm saying? We'll get through it. See, we got through the craziest crap together and all around us and our loved ones. And you know what I mean? I don't see anything going on that we can't just go, oh, there we go. It's because, use next thing, the warriors stop jumping at everything. They just kind of wait for the stuff they got to jump at. You know what I mean? So, be careful. Don't jump too early because you'll wear yourself out. And then what are you going to do? So that's the best advice I can give you in anything. Think it through. I love y'all. Thanks for being here. Please hit the like. Thank you for the super chats, the thank yous after I, load up the video. I love the comments. Keep them coming. And it's always touching to know that I reached out and touched you in an appropriate way, let's say. So there you go. I love you, my brother. Have a good one. And listen, if you need to recharge, I can't think anything better than this. Good music. Take off your shoes. Dance in your kitchen. Dance in your chair. Dance at the red lights if you're driving. Just don't do it while you're driving. I love y'all. Dance the blues away. And keep those vibes high. And I hope to see you this midweek. We'll find us a mystery, and I'll see you there. Good night, everybody. Good night, my love.
Good night, everybody.
Be safe. Be well. Be good humans. For the love of all. Jeez, oh, Pete. Love you.